We are in the Huab River, just north of the Peters Pool. We've just got a call in from Dr. Flapstander. We've been tracking for the past 48 hours. We've been tracking 2 lionesses, and he gave us a call in. And then we're moving through to go and recollar them, take some data that we need, and then fit them with a satellite collar, because they have just been with VHF collars for the past couple of months. So we just want to get out there and get to experience all of that.
So we started about a week ago, I guess, and our first mission was to try and locate the Obab lionesses. We met in the Huab River. So what had transpired there is that we already started picking up the tracks of these 2 lionesses, and then essentially we followed them for like 3 days before we picked up the radio telemetry signal. And I mean, you were very much part of assisting and helping finding the tracks in the Huab, which was complicated by the bad winds. I mean, we had some really significant east winds that destroyed tracks and cleaned the area. So it was quite hard work. With the fact that the lions were moving incredible distances, every day. So in the end, we picked up the radio signal and the lions towards the end of, I think it was the 3rd day. So it was only the 4th day that we managed to actually get a hold of them down in the reeds in the Huab, which was quite tricky, to try and get them out of there. And it worked quite well in the end. That we, with the permission from the Ministry of Environment, we were able to get a springbok carcass to lure them out, and then I used sound playbacks of a distress call of an oryx, which basically attracted them, and they came out of the reeds, and I think we got some beautiful footage of them coming out and walking across those sort of rocky plains and ridges, and until they eventually came to the carcass. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about the darting and then the recolling, the type of drug that you use, so that our viewers can get to understand more about how we go about that.
Yeah. Look, fitting radio collars and satellite collars to lions is one of the most important elements of the project, because that's essentially how we can follow them. The collars all have GPS units in them that record their position every hour during the day. So that's really important information, and us understanding the movement patterns, how they utilize the habitat, and also, especially when it comes to human-wildlife conflict, that knowledge of understanding their ecological characteristic of where they move and how they utilize the habitat is essential for us in trying to curb and manage conflict. So yeah, that fitting collars is really an important thing, but it's quite a difficult job, given that the lions move over such enormous areas, and the terrain is rugged. You saw how we had to travel, over mountains and plains and dunes and marshes even. Yeah. So it's a dynamic area, and finding the lions and getting to them is often a very tricky business. Yeah. So it took us 4 days to eventually end up with the lionesses, and then darting them and fitting the collars is an equally complex problem, because we have to essentially most of the time attract them out of an area that's inaccessible, and then immobilizing them, that puts them at risk. Every darting is always a real concern for me, because mortalities do happen. I've been very fortunate that I've not lost a lion during a darting session, but one can never be too relaxed about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we were very fortunate in that we managed to get them just after dark, and it was quite a nice, peaceful and relaxing type of immobilization. Not a lot of stress to the animals, and they woke up really quite beautifully, quite smoothly. You know, we could see that in the video material.
Yeah.
Of the two of them sort of exploring the area where they were darted, and you know, from the video material, one can really see that they're very relaxed, and that's sort of what we aim for, and I think we were lucky in achieving that.
So in terms of the baiting setup that we did that day, what were the factors that was contributing to it becoming a very successful outcome of what
Look, there we had to consider a lot of the sort of environmental issues and conditions. So there was, during the day there was a strong east wind blowing, but the previous day and the day before that, in the late afternoon, the wind turned, and we sort of had to anticipate that and hope that would happen. So the whole setup was done on the western side, allowing for the wind now to switch and carry the scent of the bait towards them, and that was then supplemented by a sound playback.
Yes.
I have a lot of recordings that I make all the time of lions, and I have a whole array of recordings that I would select, and then I would play this back at quite loud volume, but a really good sound quality. So the speaker reproduces the sound quite accurately, and that essentially fools, you know, the lions. But one has to be quite careful with that, because you know they're intelligent animals, and you fool them once, but not the second time. That process of attracting them to us was very successful. You know, they came out of the thickets, and we selected the spot for the darting quite carefully, in the sense that once the lions are immobilized, they can't now move into an inaccessible area like thick reeds or mountains or, you know, rocky bits. And as we saw, it was really quite beautiful. They fell asleep right there, right next to each other. And you know, just by looking at the body language of the sleeping lions, you can tell that you know they were calm. It wasn't a stressful situation, so that worked out very well.
How important is it to keep on the monitoring how they wake up, and then the next 24 or 48 hours, how does that
Look, you're right, that is a very important element, because you know we put the lions, animals under risk by immobilizing them, and then it becomes really our responsibility to make sure that no harm comes their way, and that they can recover fully from that ordeal, and we have to ensure that that sort of security with them. Now, with the type of drugs we use, it's a combination of you know, a hallucinogenic that is supplemented with a very strong sedative. So as a result, because of the hallucinogenic elements, the animals can go into convulsions, and they can freak out by disturbance. So a big effort is always made to keep the disturbance as little as possible during an immobilization when the lions are asleep. Their eyes are open, so they are subject to all kinds of stimuli, and we have to keep that stimulus to the absolute minimum, which is why we were so quiet around the lion, and we didn't talk loudly, and we just, you know, limited the possible disturbance, and then working with them relatively quickly. Within an hour, we can do all the necessary work we do. We fit the radio collars, we collect some biological information, measurements, age them based on the extent of wear on their teeth, and then it's basically time to wake them up, and that's done with an antidote. That's not a specific antidote. It just reduces the recovery time, you know, quite significantly. But in that time, they can be subject to no disturbance at all, which is sort of why everybody leaves, and then I monitor them in total darkness with the aid of night vision, infrared and thermal image cameras, so that then basically, the vehicle is there, it was there before they were immobilized, it's essentially still in the same place, and there's no noise or movement comes from the vehicle. Yet I monitor and record their whole recovery process. And I mean, over the years, that's something that I've sort of developed and in a way half perfected, the strategy of working with it. And it works well. Simply because darting and fitting collars is such a key thing, we have to ensure that it has the minimum sort of level of disturbance and that the animals do not remember everything and carry everything from that ordeal away with them. And I believe that we were very successful with those 2 lionesses because we observed them the following morning, and you know, we could really see that they were not any worse off from that experience.
Yeah. The 2 lionesses are from the Obab area, right?
Yeah, correct.
But the area in which we found them, we located them, is almost a couple of kilometers away from their natural area where they are. So once you have collected the data from the telemetry, from the collars and so on, how was their movement and what could be the factors that contributes to them moving so far out of the area which they normally stay in?
You know, you're very right. That is such an interesting aspect of the ecology of desert adapted lions. So, you know, all the prides or the little groups will have a name associated to them, which is, you know, sort of related to an area. So the Obab lionesses are named after the Obab river, and when they were younger, that's the area that they lived in. But subsequently, over the years, they've expanded their home range quite significantly, and that is true from every group of lions, every pride of lions in this northern Namib desert habitat. And that is a functional mechanism of them surviving in this habitat. So over time, if we monitor the groups of lions for long enough, which, you know, this project has been really fortunate in doing, so we have records of lions that go over 20 years. They live that long. So, and in that time, it's incredible how they move. They change their home range areas. They will eventually probably go back to become the Obab lionesses. But at the moment, there is no food in Obab. You know, so hence there are no lions there. And what has happened is they've essentially migrated into the Huab prides area. And somehow the Huab and the Obab females are finding a way to live there together. Not at the same time, but the area is big enough that they're never at the same place at the same time, but they have to be able to adapt in that way to access food and get the prey animals. So that's very important for us to understand the extent of that movement and how it varies. And that's why fitting of the radio collars and collecting the data and analyzing and understanding where they move is so key to our understanding of the population. And then, you know, the next step is the effective management of the desert lions.
Jason, what's your view? How did you have the experience?
Well, we as a team just had the amazing privilege to join Dr. Flukstander as he recollared the 2 lionesses that he's been searching for months. And to see him at work and, you know, his team with the Lion Rangers and the Rapid Response Unit, it's a well-oiled machine, and, you know, to see those lionesses in the condition, as you mentioned, of how amazingly pristine they are looking through these tough times really gives us hope for the lion population out here in Namibia.